is the first one. Yes, ramen is the last one. The last starter. And the second startup is the video. Hi everyone, I'm Ahmad Reza Masroor, part of Persian Tech Network. Welcome to another Persian Tech Network in March, and happy Charshanbe Suri. I wish we could have bonfires here at Plug and Play to jump over the flame and sing سرخی تو از من زردی من از تو. Happy Nowruz in advance. I hope you have a wonderful year ahead and wish you a year full of joy, love, happiness, and health for you and your loved ones. And thank you for being with us during this year to shape our community together. Thank you, Rahim. Thank you, Saeed and Plug and Play for supporting the community. And thank you, Dr. Tabesh. Thank you, Saeed Jan and Esbat, to initiate this idea of gathering. Tonight, we will have three startup presentations and follow the program with the fireside chat with Dr. Mohammad Akbarpour, a very Karduros professor at Stanford, and the CEO and co-founder of Redion. He will share with us his journey, and I don't want to spoil it. Eventually, after the fireside chat, we will open the floor for networking. And if you have any comment, if you have any idea about the Persian Tech Networks, and if you have any question about the Plug and Play, please feel free to reach out to me and ask your questions. And without any further ado, I'd like to invite the first startup to present his idea, which is over Zoom, and present his idea. The first startup is Vodio.ai, and Morteza, the CTO and co-founder, will present his idea. Thank you. Please welcome Morteza.
Um, bring up my slides. Cool. All right, so yeah, I'm Morteza Noshad, the co-founder and CTO of Vodio AI, and today I'm presenting our product, which is turning documents and videos into an interactive session, specifically in the context of sales and marketing. So what are the current challenges of the videos and documents, specifically in this domain, sales and marketing? Here are some challenges that we already have. We have static experiences, which means that users only can watch the videos, like, for example, advertising videos. They cannot interact, and as a result, we have limited engagement, which again leads to reduced attention and retention. And there are no ways actually to have real-time queries when a user basically watches a video or basically reads maybe a sales document or something like that. So we fill this gap by providing a platform that basically enables real-time question answering for such documents and videos. So let's see some demos. Actually, the voice may not be good over Zoom. I'll try to explain the videos. We will also need to visualize a wider velocity vector different from the vector. So through this platform, basically, this is a video, a regular advertising video, advertising an item. And through our platform, basically the users are able to ask real-time questions, and they're able to get answers, which are basically provided by the knowledge base provided by these companies and the providers of these products. And then basically the after the you get the response, the video just resumes and continues, and this is basically like some seamless experience of question answering within the video. Let's see another one actually. So this one is basically um, showing how we can do real-time question answering within a webinar without basically distracting the presenter of the webinar. Let's see together.
Welcome to the first part of the Ultimate HTML answer. What are the topics covered in this course? The topics covered in this course are the fundamentals of web development with HTML.
So again, this is suitable for the webinars and also online sales events, and without distracting the presenter, you get the responses with the voice of the main presenter. All right, so we also provide within our platform, we also provide interactive searching, an approach for interactive way of searching the products. Like for example, you can just describe what product you like, and then you can just get the some search results within this platform, and then by clicking on each of these search results, then you jump into an interactive session within those companies. Sales and marketing is the main focus of our company. We also provide some services for customer service, and also these agents in the form of AI-powered agents for the, like for example, question answering for the internal use cases. We provide, for example, suggested questions which are specifically trained for boosting the sales outcomes. We have some knowledge management system, and we also provide real-time monitoring and logging of all the questions being asked, and we provide them to the company. We have integrations with a lot of different sort of knowledge bases, platforms, and so on. That was all about Audio AI. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to us.
Any question? No. Thank you, Murtaza Jan.
Thank you
Thanks
so
for
much.
coming. Good to see you. So the next startup is Anthropic, and they send us a video that we played the video, and the CEO and the co-founder is Amir, who's presenting their idea.
At Entropic Bioscience, we're using a bio-inspired approach to create 3D tissue at unprecedented rates. Using this technology, we're able to create tissues for drug discovery, life science applications, as well as food security.
This technology was developed and de-risked under the direction of Paul Weiss at UCLA Chemistry Department and Biochemistry Lab. Our technology has superlatives over our competitors as it is 3D printable, chemically defined, and comes from vegan-based sources. The technology also leads to not having any zoonotonic type transitions from being non-animal derived. This biomaterial oscillates and creates 3D tissue via a phase change. At Entropic Bioscience, we provide the tools to take cells and assemble them into functional tissue.
So without further ado, I'm here to tell you guys a little bit about my startup company that I've spun off from my PhD here at UCLA, Entropic Bioscience, where we have developed a technology that's reinventing humanity's method of creating 3D tissue. Those tissues that one can develop has a lot of applications now since the FDA Modernization Act. This marks an essential shift in the drug development landscape where now clinical trials can be pushed into humans from data generated from in vitro assays, from organs on a chip, as well as these organoid-based systems that we are describing. This is a great shift from the usage of animal-based testing, which was overly cruel to animals, as well as led to drugs being optimized to the animal's metabolism and ultimately failing in the humans once the drugs were given. Using our scaffolding technology, we're able to create large pieces of functional tissue in less than 24 hours compared to the industry standard. As you can see on the left side, the industry standard, the cells are actually dying and are no longer proliferating and are undergoing a molecular process known as cellular apoptotic death. The cells here on Entropix coding, due to the mechanism that we will allude to further in the next slide, the cells are growing and are proliferating and growing into large construct systems that are expressing the protein of interest. Cells grown off Entropix biomaterial demonstrate proliferation as well as large-scale tissue constructs that have not been achieved before. These tissue constructs are on the length scale of 12 millimeters by 12 millimeters with length scales of 1.5. This is an unprecedented result with our study and our work so far. The reason why we're able to create such large tissue constructs is due to our biomaterial having a phase transition. That phase transition is this twisting motion that drives the cells to stack on top of one another, similar to the way Lego blocks are stacked on top of one another. Because of this technology, we were actually fortunate enough to be recognized as a first-in-class biomaterial and recognized by the USPTO and the National Inventors Hall of Fame for this technology. This technology has a lot of applications involving the cold culturing of drug screening and organoids, and we're looking forward of implementing it in our first act with Lonza Bioscience. Lonza is a pharmaceutical company that has found interest of using our technology. Our first usage of our biomaterial will be to improve their airway liquid interface models. These are oftentimes used in pharmaceutical as well as for disease modeling, for upstream drug development processes, as well as was a very hot drug modeling system for COVID vaccines. The timeline and the use of the funds that we are generating right now, we're raising on a 1.1 raise on an 8.5 pre-money evaluation. We've actually filled majority of our safe round, and we only have a little bit of room left in this round. And the funds will actually support our first general infrastructure of supporting our lab space, as well as our first few hires, so that we can explore and develop the projects with Lonza, as well as our other interest involving with molecular devices, Turtle Tree, and Cedar Sinai, who have interest in using our technology in their own pipeline. Currently, our team, incorporated by Wilson Sonsini since August 2023, consists of myself, Sami Dawani, Caroline Popper, and Paul Weiss. We have been part of the BioTools Accelerator program, as well as the UC Skydeck program. We have won a national award from the National Inventors Hall of Fame, as well as won a medallion from the USPTO office. Our investors for this current round are Plug and Play and Little Green Bamboo, and Escalon is managing our financial and human resources section. Thank you, and if there's any questions, please do reach out to me via email.
Thank you. And if you have any question from Amir, kindly send him an email. The last but not the least is Investa Health. Ramin, the CEO and co-founder, tell us about their startup. Ramin John, please go ahead.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. My name is Ramin. It's a shame I couldn't be there myself to see you in person and get to know you. Hopefully next time. I am going to talk about Investa Health, which is a UCLA startup that started almost 7 years ago here at UCLA. we all know that the population of the world is aging, including United States, including our own country, Iran. And in the US, a bit of a statistics would tell you that America 65 plus is projected to increase from around 60 million to 88, 90 million by 2050. So the challenge that is happening here right now is that while we are getting older, we need care, we need more care. And at the same time, we want to have the same quality, if not better, of care. You can see here that Medicare potentially preventable spending is around $40 billion a year, which half of it is being dedicated normally to frail and also another 8 billion to pre-frail population. What we call potentially preventable spending are the adverse events or spending that happens in the clinical setting that could have been easily avoided had we known some information about the patient. We could have predicted it. We could have foreseen it early on in order to avoid it. So what is the solution? Normally, many of you are currently familiar with remote patient monitoring, is to capture, monitor, and capture biomarkers from patients and analyze these biomarkers, assess them early on, in order to be able to use machine learning and artificial intelligence to predict adverse events, so that you could, or clinicians or caregivers could intervene in timely manner. So basically, just summarize monitoring and capturing biomarkers, and then later on, apart from monitoring patients, be able to predict adverse events. So our concentration has been, as I said, mostly on geriatric frail population. We are a platform which is device agnostic, so we can incorporate a series of different hardwares within our infrastructure. One of the proprietary aspects of our system is to have indoor localization, which can provide a better storyline. These are all, you might know that they're all called digital breadcrumbs. So it can provide us a better storyline or better, more comprehensive digital breadcrumbs of the patients. Um, and when we started this company 6, 7 years ago, people barely knew about remote patient monitoring. But now after COVID, it has got more traction. A lot of developers and scientists are flocking into this domain. However, building an ecosystem like this needs a lot of work, needs patient acquisition, needs to be working on patients closely to build this ecosystem around it. It's not that only technology matters, but there are a lot of intricacies involved in something like this. So we have a patented technology, 6 years of clinical validation. So rather than getting out of UCLA, we decided to stay at UCLA to use UCLA patients for clinical validations. We have more than thousands of patient days. We monitored patients, different cohorts of patients that hopefully we get to talk about. And then we waited afterwards for 6 months to a year in order to see what will happen, to see their outcomes, and then build our machine learning models. Not to bore you a lot with the numbers, it's a massive market, $40 billion, which could be, we target to have 10% of the Southern California population, and which would give us 270 million. We are hoping to target only SNFs, skilled nursing facilities, rehabs, and patients at home. The return on investment for a normal SNF or rehab would be 5 to 1, and the ROI for the accountable care organizations or any of the major care providers would be 7 to 1, according to what we have done. Again, I don't want to get into a lot of details, but what we have done, compared our models, built our predictive models, compared it with the risk stratification models at UCLA. We improved the recall twice with having the same specificity. Competitive landscape, more and more coming into the picture, but there are not many who have a scientific backbone and a lot of patient records and who have been able to build their predictive models in the area. And then we are definitely one of the only ones with indoor localization, which happens to be of paramount interest in determining the outcome of patients. As I said, device agnostic, we use FDA cleared devices. We have agreements with companies to provide us number one hardware companies or top hardware companies to provide us with the hardware. And we are, even though we use FDA cleared, we are going for FDA clearance for the platform, which is another added value. So far, we stayed at UCLA and to use our grant money, or approximately more than $2 million we have spent on building this technology since 2015-16. And we are seeking another $2 million that is mostly being spent on deployment, controlled deployment to nursing facilities and patients at home. Exit strategies, mostly such technologies will be expecting to be bought by big players, care providers that are seeking such technologies to improve the efficiency of their systems. We are mostly academicians. My partner and I are both academicians at UCLA. I'm a computer scientist by background. My partner is Associate Dean of Medicine, and we have used a couple other people, mostly in the business aspects and also in the rehabilitation medicine. But this, ever since this slide, we have added 2-3 more business savvy people to our team. And thanks a lot for giving me the opportunity. Would be happy to answer to your questions through email or here. Thank you.
Thank you, Ramin Jan. Any question? No. Thank you, Ramin Jan.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Thanks a lot.
Thank you. Now I'd like to invite Saeed and Esbat to come to the stage and run the fireside chat. Please welcome Saeed.
Two is working. Okay. Salam, Nowruz Mubarak, Pishpishaki. Hello, welcome to another fireside chat. My name is Saeed Nesbat. I have the honor and the pleasure of being the host of the fireside chat here. This event started, as Ahmad Reza alluded to, from the hikes that we are having at Stanford. Every Saturday we are going around hiking and talking and exchanging ideas. And Dr. Tabish's innovation was, why don't we bring it over here and we make a meeting out of it. And almost a year later we have this. If it weren't for Charshambi Suri, we would have a lot more people over here. What we promote in our hikes is a way to get a community around people. And because of that, we encourage people to talk to strangers. We almost forbid people who know each other to talk to each other when we go on a hike. And it's working. People get to know each other. I would like to promote that idea to you tonight here. After the fireside chat, there are a lot of people around here, very qualified people, that you may not know. Don't be shy. Go and talk to strangers. Okay, that would be the reason you're here for networking. Excuse me, let me move this over here. If you please. Sorry. Now about tonight's program, I'm very excited about my telephone going to the right place and I get my glasses. I have written this so I would not forget. Tonight promises to be both enlightening and eye-opening. Our fireside chat guest, Dr. Mohammad Akbarpour, is a true pioneer and a shining star in a field that is unfamiliar to most of you techies. Uh, Yet his work in market design and matching and auction market design, affects your lives in unexpected ways, both now and in the increasingly automated and interconnected future. What is market design? How would auction and matching algorithms affect your lives? These are the shimmering and gleaming questions that our guests will enlighten us about tonight. Please help me give a warm welcome to our fireside chat guest, Dr. Mohammad Akbarpour. He has 5.
Salam. Is it working? Yes.
It is working.
Good to see everyone.
I was very surprised when I walked in today because we had talked on the telephone, but I was very surprised by his height. And I bet you get the same reaction with a lot of people.
Yeah.
That works to your advantage.
Yeah, that's.
That's great. I'm very happy you're here tonight. I'm excited about the topic because I'm learning a lot. But usually with people, can we get the timer going, please? Yeah. Usually we have, with our guests, we start from the beginning. You were born in Iran.
Yes.
And you went to school in Tehran, I assume.
Yes. We moved to Tehran when I was 6.
Oh, you moved, where were you born?
I'm originally from Damghan.
From Damghan, okay. We won't hold it against you.
Yeah.
We moved to Tehran and you went to what schools?
Mostly Allama Helli.
Allama Helli. What's significant about Allama Helli? What's different?
This is being recorded, right? So I should be careful.
It is, yeah.
It has really amazing things and disastrous things together. As a package, I liked it. You have the best students around you and you have great teachers overall, but it's also very good in building egos that it takes many years of your life to train, that you shouldn't be as proud of yourself as you are.
So this is one of those Tishoushan schools, right?
Exactly.
Oh, I didn't know that. Okay.
Yeah.
Do you still keep your friendship with people over that you've met way back in Allama Helli?
A few of them, yeah, not
few
all of them, yeah.
Then did I turn this on? No, still on. Then you ended up in Sharif.
Yes.
And your major was EE.
Electrical engineering.
Why did you pick electrical engineering?
My ranking concours was good, so and I wanted to actually do computer engineering. It was just I was not strong enough to oppose the equilibrium of the society at that point.
How is that? Please explain.
It was like from 1 to 50, everyone pretty much went to electrical engineering.
That's right. So if you were number 52 or 53, you didn't make the cutout.
Yeah.
Okay. I suffered from the same thing. While you were on Sharif, you switched your interest into economics. What happened?
It was a mix of things. Electrical engineering at Sharif has a lot of flaws as an education system. I think they kind of the whole program is built for students who are really good, or they have access to resources above and beyond the university. So you either have a sibling who's been to a similar program who can help you navigate the program, or your parents are educated in technical fields, none of which I was one of them. So overall, the first year was a nightmare. My grades were terrible, and the whole program was a nightmarish experience. The curriculum also was very much like the emphasis was on electronics and electric machines and so on and so forth, the fields that in today's world you can hardly find a job, by the way. So these were my motivation to go and explore other stuff, and it all started in my 3rd semester at Sharif to go and explore from neuroscience and sociology to economics and management. The neuroscience and the sociology happened in University of Tehran, and Economics and Management happened in Sharif University Graduate School of Economics. And yeah, basically the point that I took Dr. Mashayekhi's class on system dynamics, he's a professor in Sharif University, Graduate School of Management. I think that was pretty much the turning point. For the first time in my life, I found something that was more fun than watching or playing soccer.
So Dr. Mashayekhi was the person who lighted,
he was one of the, I would say, one of the two people. So his class was on taking an economic or social system and modeling it using a software. There was no really math in it. It was all about solving a complex system using numerical differential equations. So it was really a simulation. But it was things like marketing campaigns or thinking about an ecosystem or like diffusion of diseases and so on and so forth. And that was really joyful to see that you can take a complex system, bring it to computer, simulate it, and make conclusions. And then at the same time, I took a class at University of Tehran with, there was a professor who died in 2010, Professor Karo Lucas, who was known as the father of AI in Iran. And his class was the opposite of Dr. Mashayekhi's class. It was game theoretic modeling of interactions in economics and society. And these two classes together were like, wow, like it's amazing, I want to do this.
You found your target, you found your passion.
Yeah, and those two were really instrumental.
So it wasn't so much that you were attracted to economics first. It was that you were repelled from engineering and electrical engineering.
Yeah, I'm a refugee. Yeah. So the funny thing is, when I came to United States, then I started actually taking some classes from. I have a dual appointment. I'm also in computer science at the Stanford. From engineering school, and actually engineering is beautiful. I just realized the Sharif way of teaching engineering was not the right way to do it.
Drilling it in you.
Yeah, and my father, until I got this position in computer science, didn't approve of my career path. He was like, you have to do engineering. And he finally said, okay, you now made it. You are a professor in engineering.
After you finished Sharif, and this wasn't your major in economics, you had taken a few courses, but you knew that your interest is in that. Then what inspired you to come to Stanford? Was it economics? I guess it was the school, right?
Well, Stanford is inspirational. I could not even imagine getting into Stanford. I think I was pretty lucky with that GPA that was pretty disastrous at Sharif. To get to Stanford, it was partly the very strong recommendation letters by Karo Lucas and Dr. Mashayekhi. They were like wrote letters that were over the roof.
What Stanford people know about GPAs at Sharif, they know that 12 and 14 are excellent,
I hope.
No, they do. I know.
Yeah. So, and the other thing was, I really applied to a program that was not the routine path of Sharif students. They typically apply to EE or mechanical engineering.
Yes.
This was a program called Management Science and Engineering. I was pretty much the only person that year who applied to this program, so I could get into. There was also an Iranian professor there who was helpful, Amin Saberi. So that was really, I applied everywhere, 15 universities, and I just got to Stanford.
You applied to 15 universities?
Which is kind of funny, because when you apply to 15 places, like if you get to Stanford, typically you should go to other places too. So it was a very lucky incidence, I would say.
You didn't get into the others?
I did not get to any other university.
None of them?
None of them. So I didn't have a choice.
You're an outlier in many ways, in many, many ways. So when you started Stanford, you were going for what degree? What did you have in mind?
It was a program on operations research, management science and engineering, which is applied math.
Okay. Your intention was to...
And my intention was to work on a field called Econ CS, which is using computer science tools to address economic problems. Like think of like Google's pricing algorithm or things like that. And then in the middle of it, I again there are too many serendipitous events, but I got to meet a professor of economics who was kind of my dream economist those days, Paul Milgrom. in a party. It was a Thanksgiving party that he was there. And we had a conversation, and then we connected, and then he told me come to my office, and then I started working within his company as an intern. And then the relationship was really nice. Like it's like dating, like you don't know whether it's gonna work. And then after working for 3 months together, we were like, this looks like a good match. We have to actually commit to a longer term.
Excuse me, dating, we know it's not going to work. Well, we're going to get to that.
Yeah,
that's part of a later part of the
but
program.
that's yeah, so I got to see Paul Milgrom, and then I applied to economics department because he said if you want to work with me, it's better if you're a student of economics. So I really didn't intend to do that until I met Paul. It's like you see someone that you love and you move to a different city.
Yeah.
So
you change your department for what degree? For MS or for PhD?
For PhD in economics.
You knew then that you want to do that.
Yeah, and I knew I wanted to work with Paul Milgrom. Yeah,
Okay.
that was-
And then later on, you worked with Alvin Roth?
He came to Stanford when I was a second year PhD student. He just came exactly when I started the second year, and then I took his first class. It was September 2012 that he taught at Stanford, and through that class he became my co-advisor.
And when did he get that? Alvin Roth got a Nobel Prize in economics. At what year? While
It
he
was that quarter that he came to Stanford.
that quarter. So
I remember because all the cameras and everyone came to the class to celebrate the Nobel
you were
Prize.
part of the celebration. That's
Luckily,
a big deal. Yeah.
yeah, this was the first time I saw a Nobel Prize winner in person. So
And then later on, he became one of your advisors.
he did, yeah. Yeah,
What was your interaction with him? How was it working with him?
Oh, Al is, he was also lovely. Paul Milgrom and Al Roth, actually, this is a part of the history of economics we are getting there. Maybe I'm going off route, but I'm going to do it anyways.
It's your talk.
You might have seen the movie A Beautiful Mind. Like game theory is an area of economics that's super important, and John Nash was the beginning of it. So game theory from 1950s to 1975 was very much within mathematics, and then came to the economics. But the idea was, if you give me the rules of the game, can you predict what will happen? Okay, that was game theory. If you tell me like what are the rules of the game, I will predict what's going to happen. In 1975, 1980s at Stanford, Bob Wilson essentially started this movement in economics that was called mechanism design, or market design if you like, which is essentially reverse game theory. The idea was, now that we understand that if you give me the rules of the game, what will happen, can you design rules of the game in a way that a specific behavior emerges? Okay, this is the reverse of that, now that we are good in understanding this prediction. So market design or mechanism design, these two there is a technical difference, but I'm not going to get into that. But this field was essentially the field that said, hey, let's start designing markets. Let's start changing the rules of the game in different environments in economy. And now that we have the tools to predict, let's go and see whether our predictions are right now that we design the rules. Bob kind of started this area, and he won the Nobel Prize actually in 2020.
Mm-hmm.
Paul Milgrom and Alvin Roth and Bengt Holmstrom, they were all his graduate students who won Nobel Prizes before him. So many of his students ended up being giant economists, and they spread this through different places. Paul Milgrom became a professor in Northwestern, Alvin Roth at Harvard, Bengt Holmstrom at MIT.
But excuse me, I can't let go of this one. You already are a giant economics.
You are too kind, but there is
tall.
Oh yeah,
height-wise.
definitely. Yeah, from a physical perspective, I totally agree. So these two were basically the people who were one of the early adopters of this area, and then they taught a class at Harvard in year 2000, which was the first time that someone taught a whole class on market design together. And then when Al came to Stanford, this was the first time that these two again were in the same university. And I was lucky, this was a really coincidence. He moved because he wanted to retire at Stanford, but it was lucky for me to be able to have the dual and work with both of them.
Before we get to your brilliant work in economics and learning from you, I would like to ask you about your Class Dars Khan Academy that you established essentially When did you do that, and what motivated you to do that, and what shape is it right now?
I wish Saeed was here because he was actually one of the supporters of that. So when at Stanford, this was really the kind of, sometimes I miss that version of myself who was crazy in doing things that I now think they are not time efficient. So as graduate student with Shima, my wife, and then two other classmates, Sahar Nasirpura and Reza Nasiri and Ali Reza Sharafat, we realized Khan Academy is becoming a thing around here. You probably know Khan Academy, but these are the early days of Khan Academy in the year 2011. There were 5 people in the whole Khan Academy. And Sal Khan came to Stanford, gave a talk, and we were like, this is super exciting. Could we have something like that for Iran and help students for especially preparation for concours? And we basically stopped studying for all of us were PhD students. But we basically, for a whole 6 months, didn't do anything except recording videos. So there are now hundreds, I think, more than 500 videos that we recorded. Each one of them really took like half a day to record.
All of them in Persian?
All of them in Farsi. And we kind of completely covered the 12th grade classes, and then we came back to 11th, went to 10th for profit. Mm-hmm. And then the success story was such that I don't think I have done anything as influential in terms of people's life in my life so far, and I don't expect to do that. It was like, today that I'm sitting here, our videos have been watched nearly 10 million times. So it was a really influential thing that a team of 5 graduate students decided to do. And I'm still proud of it. And
you should be very proud of it, yes. Thanks for doing that. Let's go to your area of expertise, market design and matching market design. Let's use an example, I suggest. And that's something that you have experience with. And there are many important aspects of it. Organ donation and organ matching, which you ended up doing a paper in Iran. How did that come about? Were you that was part of your Sharif period when you were doing that?
No, that's let me answer to your question in two different paragraphs. Matching markets in general, like economists study supply demand, think of a stock market. If a demand for a stock of Nvidia is more than the supply, the price goes up, sometimes exponentially, like Nvidia. Yeah. And market clears in prices. Okay, there is nothing else. I don't care whether I buy this stock of Nvidia or that stock of Nvidia. Market is anonymous. That's a typical economics that we study. Matching markets are markets in which the identity of people you trade with or exchange with actually is important. So the market does not clear only in prices. Sometimes you are not even allowed to use prices. Organ allocation is one of them. But it's not just organ allocation. Like, think of Stanford University. Like, the demand for Stanford is significantly more than the supply. In principle, Stanford could run an auction, increase the tuition up to the point that there are just enough students who want to go to Stanford. But they decide not to do that. There is a whole set of institutions that are designed for the admission process of Stanford.
Some people try to do that, and there were a scandal. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So there is a separate issue of there is a price to get to Stanford.
That's right.
So these are matching markets, and really from the day we are born, we go to daycare. That's a matching market in most countries of the world. Prices do not clear the market necessarily. To schools, like in US public schools that are popular, or students are allocated to public schools through the school choice system. If a public school is very popular, not everyone can go there. To dating market is a matching market. It's a market that does not clear only on prices. I mean, prices play a role, but the market does not just clear in the market. And then college admissions, and so on and so forth. So matching markets are really all around us. And one of them that I started working on in my PhD was this organ allocation market. And the idea of this is that there are now hundreds of thousands of people who have kidney failure and they need a kidney. out there, and the US spends 1% of its entire federal budget on dialysis.
Oh, wow.
It's not 1% of the healthcare costs, it's 1% of the entire US budget, which is a really big number if you think about it.
$3 trillion. I think it's on the order of three. Yeah.
Yeah, the entire budget.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this is a super expensive disease. It's one of the top 10 causes of death. And there is a good treatment for it, which is transplant. The problem is the price is set at zero, so the supply for kidney is much more than the demand.
You mean you cannot sell it?
You cannot sell your
yes.
kidney. So one of the innovations of this area to solve, of course, there is a path to receive a transplant, which is from people who have car accidents and they have brain death. So that's the national waiting list for kidneys. And that is nearly 15,000 kidneys per year. The demand is significantly more. We are talking about like a demand that is 5x more than this number. So the other solution for this, which a bunch of economists in around 2003, 4, 5, one of them was Alvin Roth, my PhD advisor, came up with, was, well, it could be that my sister is willing to donate me a kidney, but we are blood type incompatible, so she cannot donate me a kidney. But it could be that you also have, say, kidney disease, God forbid, and your sister is willing to donate you a kidney, and you also are blood type incompatible, so she cannot donate to you, but your sister is blood type compatible to me, and my sister is blood type compatible to you. So we could have a kidney exchange. It could be more complicated. It could be that someone else here has a kidney disease, and their sister also wants to donate to them, or their brother, and they are also blood type incompatible, but their brother is compatible to me, my sister is compatible to you, your sister is compatible to them. So we have a cycle of trade now. So they said, hey, let's bring all of these patients who have a donor who is not compatible to them, put them in a marketplace, and try to find these cycles. So and then we can try to match people, and they started matching like tens of people, then hundreds of people. Today in the world, there are thousands of people who are receiving a kidney through these exchanges. And my research was really about thinking about this problem from a dynamic perspective. The algorithms that have been developed before for this problem were assuming that you have the set of patient-donor pairs and you want to find cycles. My PhD thesis was like, hey, these people are arriving over time. Some of them are departing because they get too sick to have a transplant. So this is a dynamic market that is changing over time. Think of the Uber market. It's not that you have the set of all passengers and drivers. New passengers come, some drivers turn off their phones. So you're dealing with a dynamic environment, which is stochastically changing. And my PhD was really around showing that whatever algorithm you've been using before is actually a really bad idea for a world that is dynamically changing. So that's one example of a matching market. And as you can see, you cannot use prices, which makes everything complex. It turns out there is one country in the world that has a market for kidneys that is legal. I want to emphasize, every country in the world has a market for kidney that is illegal. Like today in US, if you want a kidney, you can find it in the illegal market. This is being recorded, it's illegal. But there are actually ways that people can buy in the black market, if you like. Iran is the only country that actually has a legal kidney market for kidneys. So when I was working on this topic, Alvin Roth told me, you must be kidding me, you're Iranian, you're working on kidneys. Like, you have to write something about this market.
Another serendipitous gift that you got.
Exactly, as an economist.
Yeah.
So I ended up working with a professor in Sharif University, Farshad Fatemi, and his graduate student, Negar Maturian, who then came to Stanford as a graduate student. We collected many years of data from Iran to understand how this market works, who are the sellers, who are the buyers, what is the price, is the market actually solving the problem? And of course, there are a lot of ethical and repugnant issues with this market because people are selling a piece of their body. So we try to address some of those ethical issues with data. Some of those ethical issues are not really addressable with data. We can talk about it if you like. But
you wanted to ask audiences a question.
Yeah, I mean, generally the thing about this market is like the Congress or the parliament of more than 200 countries in the world have sit down together and decided that we should pass a law that says this is illegal. So there is probably a reason that people don't like this market. And if you start thinking about the reasons, you will see like one of them is, of course, the sellers of these kidneys are gonna be poor people. And we don't like the idea that poor people sell part of their body to the rich for the sake of the money. The other reason is the slippery slope argument, which is if you start having a market for kidney, then the next thing you have is a market for something else. There are other arguments too, like the Catholic Church believes this is one of the greatest sins to sell your kidney. And that is, you cannot test it with data, right? This looks like an argument that is not, doesn't have empirical implications. That's a belief. But really one of the, like one test that I run in some of my classes is I ask everyone, and I'm gonna do it here, is to ask like how many people think people should be freely allowed to sell their kidneys, and government is not allowed to stop them from doing that. If you believe, raise your hands. How many people believe government should actually stop people from selling their kidneys? Well, there are some people who didn't raise their hands. I believe you are in the Schrodinger's cat situation. So here is a different question. How many people think people should be allowed to sell their liver? You can sell a third of your liver. It's a really risky operation. You may actually die with probability like 2%. How many people think you should be able to sell your liver? Well, the population decreased a little bit. And how many people think people should be able to sell their heart? Well, we have some. So it's like we are talking about really the risk of this operation, starting from kidney donation, which is a really low risk operation, going to the liver, going to the heart, which is you're guaranteed to die because you're selling and the money will go to your family. Which makes a lot of these ethical principles a little bit shaky, because now we are not talking about principles, we are talking about numbers, right? Like what probability is a reasonable probability for people to be allowed to do this? That's been a small part of my research over the years.
Let's move to a, no, keep the questions till the end. We want to control the time. Thank you. But keep that in mind. I would like to get it to a similar area of matching, but I would like to do a similar poll of people who have used dating apps. I haven't used, but I raised my hand to encourage you. Come on, don't be shy. Raise your hands. There are some people who use. Now, among those of you who use dating hands, how many of you have gone to more than 5 dates? See, there's a number. So dating match apps don't work. Why? Because the first or second should work. If you do that properly.
Well, if I knew the answer, I was going to start a company on dating apps, to be clear.
So these people are on a hook to go on days and days and never work, and they pay their share?
Yeah, I mean, we could talk about this question. This is actually kind of a topic that I discussed in my MBA class. Part of it is marketplaces that succeeded in becoming unicorn and decacorns and like DoorDash of the world and Ubers of the world are marketplaces in which preferences of people are really simple. So marketplace can really tell you who is a good match for you. Uber, I want to go from point A to point B, that's it. I don't care about the quality of the car as long as it's 2018 and after. So it's a very simple preference structure. Like DoorDash is the same. You could name it. There are a lot of Airbnb is actually a matching market that preferences are not that simple, but are much simpler than dating. Dating is a really complicated. It's very hard for the platform to really tell you who is the right person for you. That's problem number one. You cannot have the model of marketplace peak, which is the Uber model that makes Uber successful. The other problem is your success means you stop profiting from the user.
Exactly.
So this is kind of the paradox. Like a success for Uber means I'm gonna make more money out of you. Success for dating means I'm gonna make less money out of you.
So their goal should be, or maybe is, that they string you along and they don't give you the ideal date. So you would
Well,
pay
they
more.
do. I mean, for what it's worth, I know a little bit of some of their algorithms. They actually start showing you better matches when you start paying first. And then they kind of have the incentive not to match you to the best people until they get some money from you. So it's a complicated problem. No dating app, except perhaps a couple of them have managed to become really big. None of them have become decacorn. You have a few unicorns. But if you think about it, it's a massive market.
It's
Like
a
if
huge
someone
market,
could solve this problem somehow or do a better job than the next dating
and
app.
be willing not to make a lot of money. Because once you match, you put
Yeah,
yourself.
that's a
Let me move to a different area. Well, actually, the same area, but I want to add in a little nuance to it. In market design, there are several assumptions. One of them is that people are perfectly, or agents, let's call them, agents are perfectly rational. And the other one is that they work based on the obvious benefit that they can get. They work towards their own benefits. The second assumption is fine, but the first assumption, well, both assumptions are not totally valid when we put people as their agents. People are not perfectly rational, and sometimes for a strange reason they do something against themselves. Now we are entering, or maybe we have already entered, an era where the agents are mixed between, there's a mixture between people and machines. And machines are near perfect in rationality, and they could be programmed to, maximize their battery life or whatever they have to. What is this onset of this huge change in market design? What does it have in store for your field?
I start with challenging your assumption, which is
Okay.
it has been a movement. There has been a movement in recent years in market design and economics to include limitations in rationality into actual design. So there are like behavioral economics approaches that say, hey, people cannot make complex contingent reasoning. There are approaches that say, hey, people are not at least as smart as supercomputers. Like they cannot solve computationally complex problems. And then let's design a market or an algorithm to allocate or a matching system or an auction system for people of this type. Like one example is the Federal Communications Commission in the United States in 2017. They ran one of their most massive, the most complex auction in history of humanity, really, which was to reallocate a spectrum, buy it from TV channels in all over United States and reallocate it to operators of cell phones because they needed more spectrum. And you encountered a lot of complex interference constraints in this problem because these are these local channels and there were a lot of technological limitations. When they were designing this system to buy it from the TV channels, one of the criteria was like the economic problem the owners of these TV stations face should not be an economic problem that only an economist can solve. It should be a very simple and intuitive problem for them to see, hey, this is the best way I should behave in this game, even if I'm not a complex economist or I cannot afford to hire an expensive consultant. So there has been a movement in that direction, but you're totally right. When machines come into game, like today, pretty much everything that happens in the world of online advertising is through algorithms and robots that are bidding. And it's a 200 to $300 billion market. It's a massive market, the world of online advertising. And these are all happening with algorithms that learn, they get the data, they behave in a way, they get the outcome, they update their behavior, they send it, and then they behave in a different way. And this has, basically this is what makes me excited about economics even more, because the more machines and AI join the economy, the more we can do everything that was the dream of economists to do, but we couldn't do it. Like we could start just a simple example, which I'm pretty sure is gonna happen. You could wake up in the morning, you want to go from here to San Francisco, you check your Uber app and you see 3 different paths. A driverless car comes and picks you up, and then the menu you see is a menu of how long does it take and price. So people who want to go fast, they have to pay more. People who want to go slower, they can pay less. This is something we cannot do easily today. I mean, Uber and Lyft have started doing it. But once we actually have the driverless cars together with this AI, we could start actually pricing everything in a completely efficient way, and people can just live their lives. So that's one example. The other one is the new issue of regulators in Department of Justice, which is they have a serious problem with algorithmic collusion. It used to be that company A and company B sell the same product. They compete and set the price equal to the marginal cost. Gradually, they learn that, hey, if set the price higher than the marginal cost, it's better for both of us. This is called collusion. This became illegal, so you were not allowed to do actually, this collusion was something that you could sue a company for.
Price fixing, essentially.
Price fixing.
Yeah.
Now algorithms are setting prices and they learn that, hey, if I behave in this specific way, it's better for both of us, so they actually algorithmically collude. And now the question is how can regulate these types of algorithms? So that's also a kind of a fascinating area that's happening.
But we're rapidly running out of time, and I want to save some time for questions. But also in our conversation earlier, you promised to talk about AI and the agents, increasingly being among us and doing some of our work and competing with some of our work. I wanna give you some time to voice those because I think they are very important. You said there are three.
Yeah, this is Said creating a trendy conversation, and I'm like, okay, I have opinions. I don't have educated opinions, but in.
You want me to ask questions?
No,
it's going to take longer.
Yeah,
that's why I'm doing that.
No, generally there is a discussion of AI and economy, and there is one seminar per week at Stanford about the impacts of AI on the economy. As you said, there seems to be at least 3 worries about AI. One of them is that AI is going to be too intelligent that it's going to kill all of us and they're going to live after us. The other one is that AI is going to be used by Putins of the world and the dictatorships to do things that we don't want them to do. And the other one is that AI is going to take over all jobs and people would be unemployed. The first one, I'm not worried about it. I mean, it's an opinion. I don't have any reasons for that to be not worried. The second one, I'm very worried, and I'm pretty sure it will happen. We've already seen it happening. The third one is actually a very economic question, and I think most people are worried about it. Most economists are less worried about it, and that's because of some reasons. One of them is basically, there are 2 economics principles that we have observed over and over in history. One of them is the O-ring principle, which is, think of ATMs. In 1950, most workers in the banking sector were 250,000 people. They were tellers. You go to the bank, you want to get cash, and you get the cash. ATMs were invented. 20 years after, there are twice as many people working in the banking sector than before. What happened? There is this principle in economics which says, hey, many works are actually complex in the sense that you have to do a sequence of steps for them to happen, A, B, C, and D. If any of them fails, that work will not be done. Now, if I could magically, using machines, make A, B, and C more reliable and more efficient, then actually the value of doing D right goes higher. If A, B, and C are already pretty unreliable and they're going to fail, well, who cares about D working or not? So the value of that. Whereas if A, B, and C are now perfected, the machine is doing them and there is no error, then that piece, that last piece that humans are supposed to do and machines cannot do it at this point, is going to be super valuable. This is the O-ring principle. So what those bankers did after ATMs were invented, they were teaching people about credit. They were teaching people about loans. They were creating a relationship with clients, things that an AI at the time at least couldn't do. So this is one thing that says, hey, like actually this could make humans more valuable than what we think. But even then, of course, this is what I learned from one of my favorite economists and friends, David Autor. Even then, like look at farming. In 1900, there were 50% of US workforce was in farming. Today it's less than 2%. So the O-ring principle can do as much. I mean, there were like many more farmers in US 100 years ago than today. And that principle worked in the sense that when tractors came, farmers started doing more complex things, but still tractors and automation destroyed most jobs.
Essentially, the productivity goes so high that there's a lot more produced. Therefore, we'll take care of those jobs.
That's exactly. But well, we are at the lowest level of unemployment in United States history today, and this is the part that
let's help it. Like
this is the part that when people ask me, hey, like when AI comes and replaces many jobs, which it will, what people are going to do? I'm like, if you go to these farmers of 1900 and ask them, what do you think people are gonna do when your jobs are gone? I would be surprised if they predict people are gonna write apps. I mean, that's a really hard prediction in 1900s. So I think it's kind of arrogant and weird for us to say, I'm gonna predict what will happen 50 years from now for the types of jobs.
Prediction is very hard, especially the future.
Yeah, exactly. But one thing I want to emphasize is US in 1910 to 1940, some of you might know, had the high school movement. This was exactly because of the farming becoming obsolete. They realized that these young people are not going to be farmers. We have to educate them so that they can do the types of jobs that they did, from manufacturing to bank tellers and so on and so forth. US had the highest rate of high school graduation in the whole world between 1910 to 1940. From 7% of people graduating from high school, it became 73% of people. So that investment in education that US did in that period paid off in creating these jobs. So it's not that we could leave AI alone and it's gonna solve our problems. This looks like the time that US needs another, and the world needs another high school movement at the higher level.
Well, to counter that, I would say the past performances are not guarantee of a future. We don't know, and by analogy, we cannot extend to something that we don't know that much. But
this time is different. Is an argument that has been. It's been coming over and over.
Well, you know, sometimes it's going to be different. Let me open the floor. We have a lot more to talk about, but I want to give you a chance to jump into our conversation. That lady who had a question left? Over there. Okay. If you have a question, please raise your hand. And when you pose the question, please identify yourself and your affiliation, where you work. There's a gentleman over there if you want to.
Hi, Professor Akbarpur. Hope you're well. Thank you so much for this talk. My name is Bharatiya Kupa. I'm a student at UC Berkeley, incoming engineer at NVIDIA. And I wanted to ask kind of to go back more into the economics side. So I don't know your familiarity with like quantitative trading firms like Jane Street and Two Sigma, but I wanted to ask like how you see AI kind of shifting or helping or just coming into play with those firms, or even just like trading in general, like again using derivative options and things like that. So how do you see AI shifting those? Thank you.
I mean, I'm a believer that most of finance is a zero-sum game. So I'm not a fan of finance. So I have not studied those markets at all. It's very clear. I really don't know. I mean, it's gonna definitely change them. It's very clear that they've been using these algorithmic trading and sophisticated statistical methods for years. I don't expect AI is gonna be a revolution for them in the sense that they've been already doing. AI, the term was coined in 1950, to be clear. This has become a trend, but LLMs are just really a new method in AI. I don't think LLMs are a bigger jump than neural networks or computation that Alan Turing invented. So I think the trend will continue. They will become better and better in what they do. And noise traders, which is you and I, when we do day trading, are going to lose to them more and more. And the zero-sum game continues. I'm sorry if I was very opinionated, but that's my view.
Two questions over here, the gentleman at front, and then Ali Khalidi. No, this one.
Yes.
Thank you. I'm Dr. K. R. S. Murthy. I'm a founder of a major university here, and then has been an award-winning professor of 6 departments simultaneously, and a scientist, etc. You have limited time. You discussed a lot of things in terms of computational economics as the subject. However,
Do you have a question?
yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Can you go
See,
to
naivete becomes an issue of computational economists in the beginning with simple assumptions rather than combined conditions could be there, A and B, B and C, and so on. How do you deal with that, and how culture, ethics, etc., come in the way?
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not sure if I followed the question. The last piece, there is the one of the things to the younger people in the crowd who want to study economics. One of the things that makes economics really exciting these days is economists have started thinking about broader questions, not just the specific like finance questions or monetary economics. They are thinking about social norms, they are thinking about cultures, they are thinking about the sociology, they are thinking about the psychology of humans. And there is the massive literature for each one of them. I'm not gonna get into details of that, but definitely there is a huge work on thinking about how social norms change behavior, which then will change the way we design markets, because we know social norms are gonna change the way people behave.
Ali Khalid.
I'm Ali Khalidi. I'm a research scientist at AWS. You mentioned something about risk, like how much risk is enough risk. So sometimes the risk goes from 2% to 4%, twice as much. But sometimes the risk goes from 69 to 71%. And these two, both of them, like the risk is increasing by 2%, especially in the case of organ donation. That's like a very important issue. How one should treat those, and how those are treated as an economist? Are they just absolute numbers, or there is like something different basically? They are treated essentially differently.
I mean, I mean, if you're asking in the specific context of like organs and basically which markets should be allowed and which markets should not be allowed, I think like, or the probability of death, this is generally a topic that medical ethicists are much more concerned about than economists. So economist basically says, hey, this is illegal. I'm gonna design the market knowing this is illegal. If you go and convince the Congress that this is legal, the risk is low, or the technology changes such that the risk becomes really low, now I'm gonna design the market given that it's legal. So the economics profession really does not engage with the ethical question as much as you hope. Whether medical scientists think about 2 to 4 differently from 69 to 71, it's completely context dependent. So in the context of death risk, any number is really something any number more than like kidney, the chance that you die from a kidney surgery is like 1 in 5,000. So the chance is really, really low, and yet this is something that's illegal. So that one is very much context dependent. So I don't know really how to answer that, because that's one of the lessons of market design, which is the answer to most questions is it's context dependent. You should give me the specific market and I will tell you.
Hi.
We didn't go to the back or those ways.
There is a question in the back.
Yeah.
Good to meet you, Professor.
You too.
Vahid Bazadi, founder of Pocket Case Manager. So the organ transplant was very interesting, and forgive me, I'm not an economist to be able to speak to this, but something like Cobra effect, perverse incentive, is that something that you factored into something like that marketplace? I'm just curious if there is.
What was the first one you said?
Cobra effect? I've heard it called Cobra effect because there was a Cobra crisis somewhere in the 1800s, and then the government put an incentive out to be able to capture as many cobras, and then it led to people farming cobras. And I say that in a group of people who are probably very economically minded and thinking about how they go about mining business opportunities as much as they think about how to solve real problems. How do you factor sort of that interplay into the theory that or the marketplace thing that you were talking about?
Well, in the case of kidneys, because it's illegal everywhere, really no one has thought about like this specific effect of people going, and I recommend everyone to read the novel of, I wish we had talked more about novels of Never Let Me Go, which is about farming humans so that you can use their organs for cloning humans so that you can use their organs for actual humans, if you like, although they were also actual humans. It's a beautiful novel, and there is also a movie out of it. So the thing I would say in this market is, and this is a lesson of market design, whenever you ban something anywhere, be it kidneys, be it sex work, be it alcohol, whatever you like, you are designing a side market. There is an unintended consequence, which is there would be an illegal market for, there is an illegal market for all of this. Like there is an illegal market for alcohol wherever alcohol is banned. Prohibition was an example of in US, example of a failure in policy. Same for sex work, same for kidneys. So one thing that is not discussed in this conversation is there are thousands of people who are selling their kidneys today, in fact, tens of thousands in the world, in an illegal market, which is much more likely to be exploitative, and people are not going to get the best treatment, they are not going to get the fair price, and all of that. So this is the part of like banning these things that is, from my view, completely missed from the discussion. There are many things in the Iranian kidney market that are wrong. We could talk about them until morning if you like. One thing that is not wrong is that there is really not a black market out there, like, because like if you want to sell your kidney, you can just go and sell your kidney in a legal fashion. And then at least you would do it in a hospital that is on the ground, a physician who is actually a real physician, and so on and so forth.
My name is Babak Suzani. I work for Google. I really enjoyed this conversation. And
thank you.
And there are very similarity about your path and my path. Basically, I went to electrical engineering and I changed in the third semester like you did.
The refugees.
Yeah. And I applied for the Management, Science and Engineering department in Stanford almost the same year that you applied, I think 2008. And the reason that I didn't get accepted, mostly because I applied as a Canadian rather than Iranian. When you would have applied as Iranian, Amin Saberi was the one that was reviewing it, and most likely I would have gotten. But anyway, so my question actually goes to that. The question is
good
the matching.
that we got to the question.
Yeah, the question is the matching question.
We like questions.
Yeah. The matching question is regarding the admission related to this, right? When do you think that that admission, from my point of view, is very subjective? You know, in Iran there is a concours, which I think is the better way of doing it than here, in my opinion. But in here it's very subjective. And first of all, when do you think AI is going to be the decision maker? And is in Stanford, if there is any program to use AI for admission today?
That's a fantastic question, isn't it? I love that question. I wish I had the answer for it. The admission is I mean, admission is really, let me just give a context. 70% of Supreme Court justices are coming from Ivy Plus schools. So the Ivy League plus Stanford, MIT, Duke, these other universities, like 5 other universities. So there are 14, like 13 universities. 30% of senators, like just go and name it. The positions of power, the CEOs of the best companies are all coming from these. So these schools play a super important role in the United States in forming who has the power 20 years after that. And yet, when you look at the admissions of these schools, you can see that like they are overwhelmingly coming from a specific socioeconomic status, like income, the educated families who are in top not only 1% of the income, but also top 0.1% of the income. So one economist did a research recently, this is for literally like a few weeks ago, which shows if you just use ACT and SAT scores for admissions and drop everything else, the percentage of students from high income families who go to a place like Stanford would drop by more than 10%. So there would be 200 less rich students at Stanford if you actually just use ACT and SAT. Then he went and looked very carefully at what are the factors that cause the skewness of admission today. Is it because people do not apply to Stanford when they are poor? Is it because Stanford looks at your parents' income and decides that, hey, I want to do that? Is it because of the subjectivity of, what do we mean by subjective feature? It turns out, and this is the reason I would claim AI is not going to solve our problems, a vast majority of this gap, more than 60% of this gap, is explained by athletes and legacy admissions. So the top 13 schools in the United States, which fill up the positions of power 20 years after, if you drop legacy and if you drop athlete admits, you're going almost all the way to admitting people only based on SAT and ACT and making it a much more fair ground. Now, there is a different question, which is, of course, the goal of the admission committee is to predict who are going to be the best students, who are going to create the best companies, who are going to be future donors of this university, and whether AI is going to be good in predicting that or not. It's not being used today. They are not using really AI, except for really the very earliest stage. They look at your scores. If they are ridiculously low, they ignore you, and that is not really AI. That's a simple code. I don't know when that's going to happen, but I think we have much bigger and much more low-hanging fruits to catch. If we just drop the legacy admission, that's gonna make the whole level the playing field significantly more. And this is probably something you haven't seen, because the paper was just written by one of the best economists of the world, and he shows that the whole discussion around donor admits and going into Stanford by money is peanuts relative to legacy admissions and athletes.
We have one last question over there. No, I don't think we have time for that. So the gentleman over there, right in front of you? No, right there, yes.
Maybe
and after the program, he would be available. You can ask the questions one-on-one. Go ahead.
Hello, my name is Amin Eliasia. I'm co-founder of Zixopass, an electronic gaming company. I'm proud of your work doing. I have a question regarding the kidney and other parts transfer. As we know, science is increasing so much every day. How far are we from making these parts in the lab, if at all?
Yeah, when I started my research, by the way, say there was a question by one of the women in the crowd, the only one that has a question, so you should let them. We are. This is like.
I didn't pick you just because you were a woman, right?
Yeah, that's a.
You were late.
When I started my PhD, everyone was telling me by the time you get your PhD, your research is irrelevant, because of course we're going to make kidneys in the lab. Fast forward 14 years, we are still not able to make a kidney that stays in a mice body for more than 75 minutes. So we are really, really far. There is a lot of research being done, especially using pig kidneys for humans. So that is more promising, but still, I would. The first time we can have a kidney from a pig or a stem cell into a human body that lasts more than 1 day would be a spectacular day, and we are even not there. And I would guess we are at least a decade away from there. But this is one of the most spectacular areas of research that should be done, and we should invest more.
Thank you. Mohammed will be available for your one-on-one questions afterwards. No, let's do it one by one, because we have been going long enough, longer than we thought. It was like 10, 15 minutes. Mohammed John, this has been an exciting night for me.
I think you should allow that last question.
You think? Okay. Last question will go to you. And then I give my guys.
Thank you so much. My name is Persian Memarian. I'm a researcher at Bosch. I just have a quick follow-up question about the admission. So you mentioned ACT and SAT. I was wondering if that study is subject-based, because as I remember, there was a study by MIT that it was showing how these results is different, for example, for physics versus chemistry. So I was wondering, was it like, did they do this study in general, or is it subject-based?
This one was general. Yeah, this was not subject-based. This is true that, so MIT is one of the schools which is very interesting. for those of you who are not involved in academia these days, this is actually the hottest topic in academia these days. MIT dropped SAT from their admission requirement. They just brought it back after a few years of collecting data. The reason they dropped it was the SAT and ACT in general are very correlated with your income. So they were like, we don't want to give advantage to rich people. It turns out other factors in admission are much more correlated with the income. So they were like, okay, that's fine. I mean, now that this is not as good of a measure, but it's better than that. I don't know about this particular study, but you can check. The paper is written by Raj Chetty and co-authors. The talk that I saw was not mentioning any specific subject, so I assume it was just the SAT score. But that's as much as I know. Shall we?
This has been as advertised. This has been a most enlightening and exciting night for me, and I'm sure for many people in the audience, hopefully all of them. On behalf of the Amidi Group, the Plug and Play Persian Tech Network, and the Iranian community in Northern California, I thank you for spending
I forgot to
this
say
time.
something. I want to finish with that.
Go ahead.
30 seconds. When I got admission from Stanford, I did not have funding. Dr. Tabesh was the person who actually convinced the rich person in Iran. So he got me a fellowship, and otherwise I was not going to be able to make it to Stanford because the tuition was $35,000, which was like 10 years of incomes of my parents. We couldn't do that. Thank you so much.
I just wanted to thank you again for spending a time with us, and now you can leave the scene. We can stay till 9 o'clock, I hope. We can clear that. And you can do networking. Mohammed is available for your further questions. And again, be curious and talk to strangers. Thank you.